Matt Schauf and Jared Smola of DraftSharks.com here to present our Superflex rookie rankings for 2024. And these rookie rankings are not like what you're used to seeing. You know, most sites you can go and it's what those analysts said. I'll take this guy here. I'm going to take that guy there. I don't like him here. I'm going to put him down here. Our rookie rankings work differently. They start with our award-winning, season-long, current year projections. We apply historical aging curves and retirement rates. That's based on 20 years of research by our in-house engineer, Alex Korf. It looks at historical production curves by position, and not just by position, but different player archetypes at different positions, because stud wide receivers don't age the same way as day three type receivers, and workhorse running backs don't age the same way as smaller receiving backs. So all of those are factored in differently, weighted differently, and rated differently throughout their careers. We use all of those factors to generate 3-year, 5-year, and 10-year projections for these rookies. We weight all those to determine a 3D plus value. You will see those numbers with every player on our rookie rankings pages and inside your draft war room. And that's the number that decides where these guys sit in our site rankings, in your specific rankings. We are going to share those numbers with you on the show. We're going to share those rankings with you on the show. Yours, however, will likely differ because they're going to be customized to fit your lineup and scoring settings. They live sync with your Dynasty League. Create your own draft room to get your rankings and see how they fall. That sync is also going to stick with you throughout the season and throughout the years if you're playing Dynasty, to help you with tools such as the Trade Navigator and the Free Agent Finder. Really just give you an advantage in every aspect of your Dynasty play. Now, if you go to DraftSharks.com, check the rookie rankings for Superflex PPR formats. Jared, this is the top 12 we're working with at the moment. We've got number 1, of course, Caleb Williams, followed by Jayden Daniels, then Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Drake Maye, Rome Odunze, J.J. McCarthy, Xavier Worthy, Brian Thomas Jr., Brock Bowers, Jonathon Brooks, and Bo Nix. Now, it's Superflex, Jared, so let's start with the quarterbacks. And is there more separation for you in our rankings, whatever, between Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye after the NFL draft?
I mean, just as much separation, if not a little more. I mean, I think we kind of guessed that Daniels was going to land in Washington and Maye was going to land in New England, so not a major surprise there. I don't think the Maye landing spot's bad. I think there are questions, though. I think the Jayden Daniels landing spot is really solid. I mean, you have Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. They spent day 2 picks on Ben Sinnott and Luke McCaffrey. So, you know, the passing game weapons are at least average, if not a bit above average. Daniels joins a Cliff Kingsbury offense. And I know, you know, Kingsbury has had his shortcomings for sure, but he did work with Kyler Murray for Kyler Murray's, you know, first 4 seasons in Arizona. Murray, of course, a similar dual threat quarterback like Jayden Daniels. Murray under Kingsbury finished quarterback 12, quarterback 5, and quarterback 12 in points per game under Cliff Kingsbury. So you look at ADP and you're in a lot of these Superflex Dynasty rookie drafts, and it seems like the debate for most people is between Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. I think the debate should be Caleb Williams versus Jayden Daniels. I think Jayden Daniels' fantasy upside is being underrated when you look at what he can do as a runner. I mean, this is a guy that could really, you know, give us 800 plus rushing yards in the NFL. And then he definitely has upside as a passer, especially with the deep ball. He was an excellent deep ball passer in college. So, you know, you combine deep ball passing with the rushing upside. I think Daniels' upside is just as high, if not higher, than Caleb Williams. So again, to me, Daniels is the pretty clear, you know, second overall pick in Superflex drafts.
I think the other aspect that might be overrated a bit here is the certainty of Caleb Williams succeeding. I think we're all betting on him succeeding, and we've heard plenty of people talk about him being, you know, this elite can't miss prospect for so long that it's kind of ingrained in there. And I'm not betting that he's going to miss. The last, though, can't miss prospect was Trevor Lawrence, who's been fine, but hasn't been an elite fantasy performer so far in the NFL. So, you know, it's just a little reminder that Caleb Williams could be very good without being an excellent fantasy producer. Jayden Daniels might be a little bit less certain long-term, but like you said, you love the rushing, you love the deep passing. I think there's plenty of fantasy upside here. I think the other factor that we started talking about here, Jayden Daniels versus Drake Maye, is I don't think that there really should be a change in the gap between Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye. I think that it played out the way we expected. Jayden Daniels going second, Drake Maye going third. The Patriots were always in position to be that third team and land Drake Maye. So to discount him further for that at this point, I think is a mistake. And I think it has a potential to penalize your dynasty team by making you pass on somebody that has plenty of talent. We talked about the rushing with Jayden Daniels. Drake Maye did quite a bit of running in college. Obviously not that level of runner, but enough that he's probably going to add significant value on the ground. Passed well, and it sounds like, from the rumors coming out of the NFL draft, that he was pretty solidly ahead of the next quarterbacks on the board. It sounds like the Vikings tried to move up and the Patriots had absolutely no intention of doing so. It sounds like generally Drake Maye was thought to be, that clear third quarterback, whereas JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, Michael Penix were all solidly behind him.
Yeah, I think the rushing upside with Maye is being underrated as well. And we talked about that with Jayden Daniels. But I mean, Drake Maye, he had over 1,100 yards and 16 rushing touchdowns over his final 2 seasons at North Carolina. The guy's 6'4", 223 pounds. So he has the body to, take on some carries, especially, potentially near the goal line. So I think that adds to his dynasty value as well, obviously.
Now, Drake Maye versus the next guys behind him. Obviously, Michael Penix is a different creature, and we'll talk about him in a minute. But let's talk about JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix because they're a little bit closer in our dynasty rankings to Drake Maye. How close should they be, and did that gap close for you with how the draft played out?
Well, I mean, McCarthy obviously got the ideal landing spot with Minnesota in a pass-heavy offense with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hockenson when he works his way back from the knee injury. So, that was, the best landing spot outside, I guess, maybe Chicago with Caleb Williams, but awesome landing spot for McCarthy. So, McCarthy versus Maye is like a classic situation versus talent, right? I think, like you said, Matt, the NFL kind of, close to unanimously agreed that Drake Maye was the third best quarterback in this class. I think he should get the talent edge. McCarthy gets the landing spot edge. I think you could make a case for either of them. Right after the draft, I was kind of leaning McCarthy, but I think the more I thought about it, I think, Drake Maye is the guy I have actually gone with in at least one Superflex Dynasty Rookie draft. I've taken Maye over McCarthy. You look at our rankings, you'll see Maye over McCarthy as well. And again, it's just kind of betting on that talent.
Yeah, and it's okay to take McCarthy over Maye if you want, but I would caution against overrating situation because situation can change quite a bit in a single offseason. Just look at the past 2 years in Chicago for how different things are. Look at this offseason in Atlanta. And speaking of Atlanta, Michael Penix is, very clearly behind these other quarterbacks we've talked about in our rookie rankings, but I mean, should he be as far behind as he is? He did go ahead of Bo Nix and ahead of JJ McCarthy in the draft. I know the biggest hurdle is Kirk Cousins signing that huge contract, probably being the starter this year, but Kirk Cousins also comes in with the Achilles injury. So, I mean, if he's slowed at all to begin the year, if there's any, related injury during the season and Penix gets a shot to start, it could look silly by midseason.
Yeah, so I think, our dynasty rankings are more weighted towards short-term production than most of the dynasty rankings you'll see out there, which is why Penix might come in a bit lower for us because obviously it's tough to project him for much of anything this year because if Kirk Cousins is healthy, he's going to be the starter. Kirk Cousins, by the way, his 2024 and 2025 salaries are fully guaranteed. So if he's healthy and he plays anywhere close to the level he was at last season, he was still very good last season. Kirk Cousins is going to be the starter for the next 2 years. You're going to be sitting on Penix just giving you nothing. That said, longer term, I think it's a good landing spot. We have obviously a new coaching staff in Atlanta that's going to be a lot pass heavier. You have weapons there in Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. So long term, it's a good landing spot. I think you just have to be ready to sit on this guy for 1, possibly 2 years without getting much production.
Yeah, I agree that you have to be ready to be patient. The situation that always pops into my head, though, when I think about this one is Matt Flynn, Russell Wilson in Seattle. I mean, there's more money committed into Kirk Cousins here in Atlanta than there was with Matt Flynn in Seattle. But that was also Russell Wilson as a round 3 pick who started right away versus Michael Penix, number 8 overall pick. So I think the one thing that we know for sure is that we don't know anything for sure. Anything could happen between Kirk Cousins starting the next 2 seasons or Michael Penix taking over at some point this season. So keep that range of possible outcomes in your head as you're evaluating whether to take Penix here. Away from the quarterbacks and to one of the more interesting prospects in this class, Brock Bowers. Talked about potential hits to Drake Maye's value, to other quarterbacks' value. What about Brock Bowers? Does he take a hit in value for you coming out of the NFL draft this year?
He has to take a little bit of a hit because this landing spot in Vegas is pretty rough. I mean, it's tough to find a positive with the landing spot for me, right? I mean, you have quarterback questions. You're going to have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell battling for the starting job this summer. The coaching staff is a question mark, right? You have Antonio Pierce, who every time he gets on the mic, he talks about how much he loves to run the ball. You have a new OC and Luke Getsy, who didn't do much in Chicago. You still have a target hog and Devontae Adams there, at least in the short term. So I think Bowers has to take a small hit, but for me, it's a small hit because we say this all the time in Dynasty. You want to bet on talent. Situations change fast. Bowers remains one of the best tight end prospects we've seen come into the league in recent memory. So if you look at our Superflex rookie rankings, you see Bowers at 10. There's no way he should fall past 11 in any Superflex Dynasty rookie draft. You can argue Bowers up to 8, I think, pretty easily. And I'd have no issue with that. So like he should not drop far despite this landing spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you're set at quarterback, JJ McCarthy is at number 7. I could see taking Bowers over him. It's like you said, you just at some point you just bet on the talent. There's some hit there because Michael Mayer's already there. I would assume taking Brock Bowers in round 1 means that Michael Mayer is not going to impact him too much. But there's also the question of how the quarterback is. Frankly, for me, there's also a bit of a question of the Raiders in general. They don't seem awesome on the decision-making front. So I'm not sure I trust the Raiders to maximize a guy's talent. But at some level, you just have to buy the talent and trust that it works out. You know, I mentioned the situation thing. Look at Trey McBride a year ago. Like, even if you headed into the league liking Trey McBride as a prospect, a year ago, his market valuation was down. He was behind Zach Ertz. His QB was coming off an ACL tear. We didn't know when Kyler Murray would be back. He was coming off a quiet rookie year. Looked like maybe a limited player. And then Trey McBride exploded in the second half of last season. Kyle Pitts' market valuation has changed throughout this offseason with the changes there. Be careful about overweighting situation and at some point just bet on the talent. Beyond that top 12, we've got these guys at number 13 through 24 in our current Superflex rookie rankings. Number 13, Keon Coleman going to the Bills, Ladd McConkey of the Chargers, Michael Penix Jr. checking in at 15th overall, Ricky Pearsall, Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Polk tied with Xavier Legette in our 3D values right now. Adonai Mitchell just behind those guys. And then the final 3 guys in our top 24 are tied at the moment, Jared. We've got Jermaine Burton, Blake Corum, Malachi Corley, all at the same 3D value. Those exact ratings can change. They might fluctuate based on changes in market valuation, based on ADP, and other factors that go into the calculations. Like I said at the top, this isn't just we're going to slide this guy here because that's where we would take him. It's calculations based on a whole bunch of factors that feed into it. Now, the wide receivers collectively moved up after the draft, and I think that makes sense based on how the NFL played things out. We had 10 wide receivers come off the board before the very first running back drafted, and I think that sets us up for a question of Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey versus Jonathon Brooks here.
Yeah, I think, well, to me, all 3 of those guys were draft winners. I think they all gained a bit of value in the draft. We'll start with Jonathon Brooks, who, the NFL said was the clear RB1 in this class. He goes over a half a round ahead of RB2, Trey Benson. I think it's a pretty solid landing spot for Jonathon Brooks. I think it's pretty weak competition in the Carolina backfield. I actually think Chuba Hubbard is like his toughest competition. And if you had said that a year ago, kind of would have laughed. Hubbard did have an okay 2023 season, but I think if Brooks is healthy, he's obviously coming off the ACL, Brooks will emerge as the clear best running back in Carolina. And then I like the landing spot with Dave Canales, who obviously helped Rachaad White have that breakout season with the Bucs last year. A lot of that coming with the passing game production. And Canales has already talked up Brooks's versatility, his ability in the passing game, which he did show at Texas last year with pretty strong pass catching numbers. I think, Brooks eventually can take on a role similar to what Rachaad White had last year, which was, like RB1 level volume. I think that's definitely in the cards. Probably not right away coming off the knee injury, but even by the second half of this season, I think that's possible.
Yeah, and I'll reiterate that if you're downgrading Jonathon Brooks at all, either this season or going forward because of Chuba Hubbard, then stop and just go ahead and take Jonathon Brooks where you want to. Because if Chuba Hubbard actually stands in his way at all, then it's a signal that Jonathon Brooks is not as good as we thought he was. Keon Coleman, Ladd McConkey, you said, are also winners here. Talk to me about what you think of those 2 guys coming out of the draft versus maybe where they were heading in.
Yeah, I think for starters, they both got pretty nice draft capital, right? Like early round 2, essentially like, borderline round 1 picks. That's good. I think both guys landed with at least top 10 NFL quarterbacks, if not top 5 NFL quarterbacks in Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. That's good news. And then they both have the upside to lead their team in targets, right? Like the Bills lose Stephon Diggs, the Chargers lose both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Like Keon Coleman and Ladd McConkey this year could lead their respective teams in targets. There's questions about both guys as prospects to me, but I think the landing spots definitely helped their chances of hitting.
Yeah, positive landing spots, like you alluded to, I would caution against upgrading them too much because they did both last into round two, behind Ricky Pearsall, Xavier Worthy. So certainly not sure things longer term, and also not even sure things to lead those teams in targets this season, but there is a path to do that. So that helps them. I think all of that together, I would go ahead and take Jonathon Brooks first among these three guys, because I think he has the better chance of being a difference maker versus this class at his position than either Keon, Coleman, or Ladd McConkey does. And I think that immediate path to production matters more at running back than it does a wide receiver.
For sure. Yeah, it's definitely Brooks for me over these guys. To me, Brooks is like closer to the Brian Thomas, Xavier Worthy tier of wide receivers than he is Coleman and McConkey.
Now we talk about relative to others at their position. We've got Jonathon Brooks versus Trey Benson, Marshawn Lloyd, Blake Corum, the next guys at running back. Immediate opportunity clearly favors Brooks among those players, and he probably has the highest upside among all of those running backs. Are any of those other three at all close to Brooks for you?
No, they're all at least a tier below. It's Benson and Lloyd next for me. And I do think Benson is a strong target. Draft Sharks is as big a James Conner fan as anyone, and he's definitely delivered for us. But Conner is 29 now. He's a free agent after this season. The draft capital the Cardinals spent on Benson says that I would assume, hope he's their guy starting in 2025. So, and listen, Benson's a strong prospect, and this Arizona run game was really good last year under OC Drew Penson. They finished 4th in rushing yards and 9th in rushing touchdowns as a team. Some of that was obviously having Kyler Murray, but the Cardinals running backs combined for the 12th most rushing yards on 4.8 yards per carry. So I like this landing spot long-term for Trey Benson once James Conner is out of the way.
And even this year, James Conner's missed multiple games every single year in his career. So if he does that again this season, maybe there's an opportunity for Benson to just grab the job and keep the lead even once Conner gets healthy again. So I agree. Benson looks attractive. We're going to talk a bit more about Lloyd and Corum on our one quarterback rankings version of this show. Let's close out here, Jared, with a favorite sleeper from that round 3 and beyond. For me, I'm focusing on quarterback because it's super flex. We'll have some other sleepers in that one QB show as well. I think that what this draft did was show us that there's really not a good crop of sleeper quarterbacks. We talked about some guys heading into the draft that we were kind of hoping would get good landing spots. I mean, if you liked Spencer Rattler before, you can argue for him, but the fact that everybody kind of faded way into day 3, I think says not to like any of them too much. The one guy that I don't want to say stands out, but I'm interested in is Joe Milton, just because of the physical tools he brings, the strong arm, the mobility. If you can get him round 4, round 5 of a super flex draft, I think he's worth a stash, and then we'll just see what happens. We've certainly seen in the past Patriots backup quarterbacks, emerge there with slight opportunity and then get an opportunity to play somewhere else.
Yeah. If you want a super deep sleeper from me at quarterback, and I'm talking like round 5, even of super flex, I would go with Jordan Travis, who got drafted by the Jets. He's old. He's already 24. He's coming off a pretty nasty leg injury, but he, at least before the injury, had dual threat ability. He's behind, obviously an old, coming off injury Aaron Rodgers with, pretty decent weapons in New York. So Jordan Travis would be my total flyer, probably, super unlikely to ever hit. But again, if he gets on the field, I think that running ability with the weapons in New York could make him interesting.
And you got to love a couple of guys with multiple kids talking about a 24-year-old being old. You can find our full rookie rankings on draftsharks.com, but you'll get the best version by syncing your Dynasty league and creating your own draft war room. That's going to pull in your league's specific scoring and lineup settings. It'll give you control over how you draft, and it'll read your specific rookie draft itself, factoring all those things into your pick recommendations at every turn. Become a DS Insider to make us your unfair advantage.